Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective. We have another fantastic show for you planned out today. Very excited to get Fran and Brian returning back to the show, and I am pumped. It's going to be a very good conversation. Now, while I am excited, y'all should be too. Like the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff to get your emails in the morning whenever we go live, which is, of course, every day. Now, if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, anything at all, by all means, put them up in the comment section, and we will engage those directly, kind of like this one. Lisa, good morning from Texas. Good to see you, Lisa. We are going to be talking about the obstacle is the way. But before we get into any of that, let's get some intros out of the way and run in from there. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you. 10 to 15 seconds. Who are you? Where you come from? All that good stuff. Give her.
Morning, I'm Brian Churchill, coming from Los Angeles. I'm LAPD, been doing that for 21 years. I also serve in the Coast Guard Reserve.
And having to go to Hawaii just recently, right? You gotta oh no, I gotta go.
It's tough. I'm leaving on Sunday, so, you know.
Rough day, let me tell you. Fran, how about yourself?
I'm Fran Rachopi. I spent 13 years in the Army Special Forces as a Green Beret, and then now I am the creator and host of the Jedburgh podcast and the founder and CEO of a company called FR6, where we do a lot of government work in the Northeast region. And I love being with you guys in the morning because I just want Shaun to do his best.
Burn. I like it. Awesome. So, like I said, today we are going to be getting into the obstacle is the way. Now, this week we have been going over reflection and growth. So, this is a kind of a continuation of that in my mind. We've talked reflection, we've talked introspection, we've talked personal development, we've talked perspective, and it's all very kind of internal stuff. So, I really wanted to talk more about the actions, the physical things that we can, the stuff that we can do to make our lives better, to be able to utilize reflection going forward. So, what is the obstacle is the way? Well, it is a quote that has been kind of massaged a little bit from Marcus Aurelius, and the original quote is goes like this: "Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And so I'm going to go with that. I think it's a really fantastic quote, but let's get your guys' first thoughts on it. Fran, I'm going to start with you. When you hear the obstacle is the way, what are your first thoughts?
I hear finding opportunity through challenge. When we talk about resiliency, so I mentioned outside of my passion of being a podcast and show host, I work a lot in global security and resiliency. When we talk about resiliency, really at the end of the day, we're trying to find opportunity through challenge, because we're going to be faced with obstacles along our path, along our journey, whatever that might be. This week, I've talked a lot about veteran transition and the numbers, which are often quite staggering when we look at veteran transition, and the difficulty, especially in the special operations community, that a lot of veterans have after 10, 20, 30-year career, and all they see in front of them is challenge. And you look at the numbers and you think, man, like, why are there like 76% of veterans struggle through transition? 48% think it was harder than expected. 62, I think, percent say that it took longer than expected. There's all these numbers that you look at in this, you say, this is insurmountable. This challenge in my way is insurmountable. But how do I create opportunity? How do I put a plan together? How do I look at the people around me? How do I look at the process that I have in front of me? How do I wake up every day and create and think about that vision and that end state? That's my goal, yes, but what are the daily things that I'm going to do to take one step forward? That step might be little one day, other days it might be a bigger leap. But if I look tactically and enjoy that process, enjoy that road, that journey, and embrace it, that's how I'm trying to see through that dense forest, right? You look at that light at the end of the tunnel, because it's really about, yes, I'm challenged, but there's an opportunity that has been presented for me to overcome this challenge if I seize little wins every day. That's what I see when you say the obstacle is the way.
Absolutely.
And then get excited about it.
You get excited about this is the thing, I really enjoy the fact of, once I actually understood what this meant, it did, instead of feeling bad about oh no, I have to get this done. It was like, all right, let's see what I can do. And you kind
I
of,
can get this done.
yes, exactly.
Like think about working out. Right? I've done a lot on fitness. You guys know that over the last couple of months, and you'll hear that all the time from some elite athletes. You wake up in the morning and you're like, I have to work out. No, I can work out. I get to do this.
That's such a great line. I get to do this. Brian, what are your first thoughts?
I think about failure, right? So failure is a great thing. If you can move forward from failure, you learn and you grow from that. I think of failures throughout my life, and I can talk about that if you want to. But those things are pretty much what made me better. And then when you fail as a team, you learn that together as a team, and you become stronger. And so, and those failures, when you look back on them, they're funny and you laugh, and as long as they're not too egregious, and then and you grow. And so without the permissibility of failure, you kind of live a moot life. And so you have to allow yourself to fail. That's what I think of those obstacles.
I like that a lot. Shaun, what are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts are that the fellows already kind of covered it on a general basis, particularly how Fran opened things up. And I got to add a little bit more to what Fran said, I suppose. And that is, I'm looking forward to when Fran releases this next series that he's got coming up in respect to him talking with a number of veterans. It was 51 veterans, right? Wasn't it, Fran?
Yeah, I got the shirt on right now.
Yeah, there you go. So he put out a clip just recently, watched the whole thing, really enjoyed it. And my first thought was, I'm stoked to listen to that because Fran comes with a lot of experience. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's talking to a lot of cool people who've got enough diversity amongst the demographic and have got a bunch of vectors that they're going to come at this from, that I'm going to learn things through their obstacles, through their way. And so we talk about the obstacle as the way, all the adversity, suck up the hard times and learn from it, and et cetera, fail. We're relentless with that message, but it was Fran's opening piece that made me think about it a little bit of a different way, and that is, I think another way to face the obstacle is to adopt a growth mindset, open your ears, and just listen to others on how they found their way against the obstacle. So in this case, it would be 51 vets plus Fran, that's 52, nice round number. And so I like even numbers, not odd numbers. And so 52 opinions on how to move through, over, around, or under an obstacle, as it were, I think is another excellent path forward for people who can be humble enough, set their ego aside, and learn from others other ways for the obstacle. I hope that makes sense.
That is a great thought. I'm going to come back to you, Fran. What are you thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what drives action, right? And thank you, Shaun, for your support and kind words. The episode that we kicked out on 51 Vets, episode 129, this last week was a very important episode for me, and I really thought that it was something when we talk about opportunity from challenge, so fitting here, that we all struggle with. And I'm 6-7 years out of the military, and I wake up every day and still face that same struggle and that same challenge. And although you come so far down your journey, that journey is long. But surrounding yourself with great people who build you up and drive you to take action. Because that's what we're talking about at the end of the day, right? When we look at the opportunity is the opportunity that's in front of you. You're never going to get there if you sit in your house and you pile up all the can'ts. We don't allow that in my house with our kids. We were joking before we started about getting beat up by our 3 kids. And, one of the things that we talk to them all the time about is there's no can't. There's no can't. That doesn't exist. You got to find a way. You got to look for different angles to approach problems. Look for different ways to solve the problem. Why is special operations great in any country, in any community? Because we put people in these units who are problem solvers, who don't know the definition of the word can't. It doesn't exist. There is no can't in your vernacular in special operations. Because if you don't know how to do it, you go find someone who can. If you don't have the resources who have it, you go find the resources. And it doesn't always take money, and it doesn't always take fame. You don't have to have any of those things. I don't think any of us have any of those things. But yet, you guys seem to produce a show every single day. And would you tell me that you haven't missed an episode or a day of recording since May 21st, I think is what you told me? That's incredible. Okay, and I don't see some big corporate sponsor behind the collective, but you just make it happen. You wake up every day, you have a vision, and you take one step further to execute on that. And it's 5 a.m. for Brian. It's 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in Texas, where you put that up when we first started. And there's people up watching. And they're excited about it because that's impact, that's opportunity, because they're looking forward to becoming better at what they do in some small way. That's because you saw the opportunity to do something, not the challenge that exists in trying to coordinate hundreds of guests throughout that time frame.
Yeah. We're at episode 334 today, I believe.
Boom.
And yeah, we've had the live show every day since January 1st, but we've had guests consistently. We have not missed a day since May 21st. It's been quite the challenge, but
consistency is what creates success.
Yeah, 100%. Brian, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's it's just that drive. So you have to have that drive. It's, you know, when you get up, you have a mission and you move forward, and that's what makes the obstacle the fun thing to do. That new challenge, that way to move forward on it. I know that when I wake up at, you know, I normally get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I go to work. I make sure to get my workouts in. You know, make sure that all. And there's going to be those challenges every single day at work. I know it's coming, and I love it. It's fun, and there's a lot of like internal satisfaction from those things. And I don't think that if you're missing that meaning piece in your life, you got to stop what you're doing and go find that meaning. And those make sure that your obstacles are, you know, the outcome of those obstacles is going to be something good, something powerful. And those can be small things, small wins every single day. So, and I think that you have that with the show. And I think that just getting everybody together, motivated at 5 o'clock in the morning to, you know, 5 to 8 in the morning, it's early for all of us. So, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun doing this. Especially getting people up at 5 a.m. to join us for a collective. So I really do appreciate it. It's awesome having you here. Shaun, you got any additional thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just pulled up a photo on my phone. I'm going to show it to you. I hope you can see that. That's me in the back of a taxi. We had just crossed from Malaysia on a bus, like we were 18-year-old Aussie backpackers, as cheap as possible, from Malaysia into Singapore. I can't even begin to tell you what the ridiculous chain of events that occurred throughout that day to have us 3 hours late, arriving in Singapore, going through the insano passport control network to try and find a taxi, to try to get to our hotel. And I am literally, there was rivulets of sweat rolling all over me. I'm looking at my watch thinking, I'm going live on the podcast in 3 minutes. We're in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know where our hotel is. The taxi's en route, and I'm going to be freaking going live in the back of a taxi. In the back of a taxi. That is me laughing with my phone clamped between my knees with my earbuds in. My wife took the photo in the back of the taxi, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to be normal, man. I'm just trying to make it happen. I'm trying to never give up on the process of it's got to get done. I will find a way. I don't care what happens. I committed, and I will be consistent, and that is all there is to it. And so the show went on ahead as planned. I had to kill my screen so that no one got motion sick as I was bouncing around in the taxi. We got to the hotel. I went down on one knee, propped my phone up against a flower vase. My wife checked us in. I'm trying to act all coolio, which is pretty hard to do when you're down on one knee on a carpet, checking into a hotel. We were up to the room. My wife went up to the room. I just stayed in the lobby and started smashing with Mike Scipione and Corey Hatt, and just tried to do the podcast with some semblance of professionalism. Well, here's the thing. Life gets in the way, and I could have made all the excuses, but during the podcast, there's no space for excuses. There's only space for performance. No one cares how many flaming hoops I had to jump through to get to the podcast and make it happen. All they care about is that it happens. They don't want to know the sacrifices. They want to know the results. They want to see the outcome. And to me, it would be disingenuous for us to be over here on the regular talking about be consistent, smash on that problem, break through the obstacle. But at any small problem or any glitch in the technical process, if I just put up my hands and say, can't make it tonight, boys, just like tonight, well, no one cares. No one cares what the problems are. What people do care about is the results. So I'm all about finding a way to make it happen. One of the mottos within CANSOFCOM, Canadian Special Operations Command, is we will find a way, not maybe we'll try. That isn't the motto. It is we will find a way. And to Fran's point, within his family, the word can't is not really a common word, perhaps. But what should be a common word in every family's vernacular is how. How will we find a way? There's always a way, but the key is how, and that how is connected to action. That action is connected to maybe failures, but failure after failure, you get closer to the outcome that you're seeking. So I'm in line with Fran and in line with Brian. Failures do occur, but there is always a way. We will find a way. That should be carved in stone above every family entrance, as far as I'm concerned.
I love that. That is fantastic. I would love to see people start carving "We will find a way" over top of the entrance of their house. That'd be amazing. But let's talk. So with us, with the panel here, with people that have lived this kind of lifestyle, especially special operations guys, it's almost commonplace. Like, this is a consistent mindset. You're surrounded by people that are of the same mindset. If there's something in the way, cool, we'll figure it out. Doesn't matter. But for those who have never, let's say, have never taken the time to actually address this as a lifestyle, what are some first steps, do you think, for people that they could actually take, see as accomplishments, and move forward with this? Because it's a lifestyle, at least in my mind, to be able to consistently move forward in this mentality. What are some first steps that you think that people could utilize? Brian, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah. I think of the Dunning-Kruger complex. I don't know if you guys have talked about that at all, but it's as you've talked about it already on the show. Yeah. So, I mean, as you come closer to expertise, you see more gaps to get to be the actual expert. And so, you have to see what you want, and you have to work for it every day. And you can't let those gaps kind of get in the way of those goals. And so, I think of, I spent about a decade working gangs, and you start off just kind of wanting that lifestyle, but you don't know what it is. And then as you get to be part of that team, you learn how the gangs impact the city and who the players are. And you start understanding how it works, and then understanding strategies and policing strategies on how to fix it. And the next thing you know, you're making that community safer. You see kids out in the street that you've never seen before that are throwing a football around, and you think, okay, well, I did that. I gave them their safety. I'm getting better at what I do, and how I get better at what I do is having a direct impact on the people that I serve. And so you start to feel that in your soul, and you want more. And so I think then success begets success, and you have to keep working and harder every day, and you can never rest on those laurels. We have an expression: you're only as good as your last caper. And so, you always work harder to get yourself closer to the mastery of what you do, so that you can actually fulfill your purpose. And so taking that first step towards learning something, towards getting better, and understanding that you're not going to do a great job at the beginning. I think of the first time I was in charge of anything. It was an assault with a deadly weapon call where a bunch of gang members had pointed guns at each other and then took off running. And then we ended up chasing him into a house. Our tactics were terrible. And I was in charge. I'm like, yeah, let's go get him. And we ended up on the second story of this house, and just people were coming out of closets, and we were fighting. People are getting hit, minor injuries, things like that. And, we walked out of it with everybody in custody, everybody okay. But I walked out thinking, God, I put everybody on my team at risk. And while it was a lot of fun, and it was something that I've never repeated, and it's important that that's part of the mastery of my craft. I failed at that, and I stepped back and look. I put everybody in danger, and from now on, I have to look at the tactics approaching me. What is the exigency? Why do I have to get in there? Can I step back? Can I set a perimeter? How do I control and communicate this situation so that we have so that everybody's safe? And that first failure kind of made me realize, this is a serious thing, and I need to get better mastery at what I do.
Absolutely. Fran, thoughts on this?
I think Brian and Shaun both hit on this theme. That I would say the first step is really, it's not going to be perfect. And I think what happens is when we look at a journey, whatever that journey might be, as big or as small as it is, we always want to default to a mindset of it's going to be perfect. It's going to look good every day. The trajectory is going to consistently be up and to the right. And every day is going to be one step closer to my goal. And that's just not reality. It's not going to look like that. It's going to be challenging. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be times and periods where there's going to be seemingly more setbacks than there are successes. And there's going to be days where you take one step forward and two steps back, and other days you take, two steps forward and one step back. And that's going to happen. And I think when we set off on a journey, and what does it mean to set off on a journey? When we set a goal, and that goal could be, I want to get in shape so I can, bend over and play with my kids when I'm in my 40s and 50s. That goal could be, I want a new career. I want a new job. It could be, I want to go save money to go on a vacation somewhere. You name what that goal is. Understand that it's not going to be perfect. And be willing to accept that. But just know that you've got to have and work towards, in aggregate, more good days than bad. Like if I wake up today, and be realistic. If I wake up today and I say, I want to lose 10 pounds and I'm never going to eat pizza. Okay, well, that's a lie. That's a lie. Like, I have 3 children. Right. There is not going to be a time in the next week, probably, where I'm just not going to eat pizza. Like, it's going to happen. Right now, do I have to eat a whole pizza? Do I have to eat 6 pieces of pizza? No. Could I have 3, 2, 4? Yeah. That's a step forward. That's progress. Brian said, take a little step forward, make an incremental change. That's an incremental change. And maybe I don't have pizza 3 days this week. Maybe I do it twice. That's okay. So I think if you approach these opportunities, and when we talk about creating an opportunity from challenge, know that you're not going to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to work to get it right more than we get it wrong.
Absolutely. Shaun, thoughts on this at all? No, I think he might be frozen. I think he's frozen.
Yeah,
there he is.
You good?
Good.
Okay. Yeah, both fellas hit it, and it's consistency for me. And Brian said it first with, after a while, he started to see the neighborhood cleaning itself up. And that's something that you just don't see on day one. No matter how much time you put into that day, nothing flips itself on its head and becomes immediately better so evidently that you can just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, I'm done. I'm good. We did it, boys. We did it. It takes time. And sometimes not only does it take time for the results to show up, you've got to take the time to reflect on if the results are showing up. And so the obstacle is the way. You can smash all the obstacles all day long, all year long. But every once in a while, you got to pause for effect. You got to take that tactical pause. And even if it's just 60 seconds and think, what have I accomplished over the last week, month, year? Like I like to ensure that I'm better today than I was a year ago. And I think every once in a while, whatever that means to someone out there, maybe for you it's every day, maybe for you it's every week, maybe it's every month. It's unimportant to me, but every once in a while, you got to take a tactical pause and quickly reflect on where am I at right now versus a year ago. And so these moments where we're being consistent in our efforts, we're putting the time in to becoming better, we've also got to take the time to see if we are becoming better.
That is a great point. Now, I have a couple comments I want to hit on, and they got a really good question in here. So I'm just going to hit this. Any other thoughts before I jump into these? You guys are good? Okay. So, yeah, Lisa jumped in here and said, my stepson needed to see this when he came home from the military for sure. She said she's loving this energy, which is great. Vanessa jumps in here and she says, great topic. How do you guys feel about accountability partners? I was having trouble holding myself accountable, so asked a coworker for help. He now has a sticker on his toolbox that says kick butt to remind us to check in every morning to touch base on accomplishments of the previous evening. So I think this is a great question. In terms of accountability, what do you guys think about accountability partners? Brandon, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
Yeah, we don't do anything alone. We are, as people, we're social by nature. I'm going to say this, and people will disagree with me, but I don't care. I don't believe one person who says I don't need anybody. I don't believe one person who sits there and says I created my own success and I did it all myself. I don't believe it. It's not possible. You need other people in your life. There's no individual athlete who competes in an individual sport who will tell you that they did it all themselves. There was a support network around them. Yes. Did they put the hard work in? Absolutely. Were they most likely the hardest working person in the room and drove the most productivity? Absolutely. Yes, they did. But they didn't do it themselves. We as people need other people around us. That's society. That's the history of humanity. That's how civilization was created from the dawn of time. That's why we live in homes with other people. That's why we live in communities, because we need other people to help us. And that might be material help, that might be emotional help, mental help, physical help, whatever it might be. But surrounding ourselves with a community of like-minded folks who are willing to challenge us and willing to hold us accountable and be on our journey with us makes it easier. Now, I say that, but I will caveat that with we still have to be our own brightest burning light. That desire has to come from within. Because if we do something and we do things for other people, I believe that only motivates you so far. And we'll have conversations. We've had them here. I'll do anything for my family. I'll do anything for my kids. Absolutely, 100%. But you're always, when you are internally motivated to achieve a goal, you'll get up every day at 4:30 in the morning and do that one thing you need to do to get there. You won't negotiate with yourself. Conor McGregor, the fighter, talks a lot about this. He says, I never negotiate with myself. If I say I'm going to get up at 4:30 in the morning, I'm going to do it, I do it. And that comes from a burning desire inside ourselves to make it happen. People around us will empower us and build us up and remind us when we begin to have that internal negotiation. Like at 4:35 in the morning when I get up and I look around and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm doing this because I got to provide for my family. I want my kids to have a good life. I want to be around when they're older and functional and move. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to do a little work. I'm going to go work out before everybody gets up. But that all started with me waking up and saying, I'm doing this because I'm driven to do it. And then that little bit from that community around me, that helps remind me, why am I doing this? So absolutely.
I like that. That's really awesome. Brian, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's important to have people around you that can tell you you're wrong, and that you trust to do that. You see high performing teams everywhere, and those are groups of people who say, you know what, you messed this up, and this is what this did for the team. And then you walk out of that and you think, okay, yeah, you're right. I did, and we're going to be stronger. I don't like coming into places where everybody's, oh, you're so amazing, you're great, because that's not true. You can always get better, and you need people around you to keep you accountable. I always say as a leader, if everybody's around me and they look just like me and they're shaking their heads at me all the time, I'm probably not doing a good job in creating a high trust environment. You have to have thick skin, and you have to be able to understand that if somebody's giving you feedback, even in negative feedback, that and you trust them, that it's for your own good. It makes everything better. So have that thick skin and be able to take that feedback is just going to make a better person and a better team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's been a couple of times on the show, on live, that I've been, what's the word for it? Directed as to how to do things better from Shaun. And but it's true that it's a key proponent, I think, in anything, is the accountability for sure. And Shaun just sent me a message the other night. It was like, I will hold people accountable. And he showed me an image of messages that he was sending people of like, I'm holding people accountable. And I'm like, yeah, I would expect no less. 100%. Shaun, you got any thoughts on
Did
this?
he send you a picture of yourself? Is that where you got a little nervous?
That's happened. It has. It didn't happen yesterday, but it has happened. What do you got, John?
I think that as Brandon was talking about Conor McGregor, one of the key pieces to that is it isn't something that Conor makes up on the fly. Like today, I'm just going to try really hard. I'm going to be the best version of Conor today. It's not like a random idea that bubbles up into his head that day, and then by the end of the week he's like, nah, but not today. I'm not going to try today, but I'm going to think about it next Tuesday. I'm going to be my best, but probably not Wednesday. What it does take, I feel, is a bold plan, a bold vision. It takes a large commit that you can hold yourself accountable to, in the sense of it's clear that it's going to be challenging. It's clear that it's going to be an obstacle, but you clearly define your path forward. And so I'm going to use the collective as an example. The obstacle for me was the collective, that I didn't even know what it was at the time. But what I did say is 2023, we're going to go freaking live every single day, come hell or high water, no matter the sacrifices, not even knowing how we're going to do it or where it's going to go. We are going to smash every single day and not skip a beat, period. I won't accept anything less than every freaking day. And that's what we've done. We've never missed a day since January 1st. And it's mind-boggling that we haven't missed a day. But it's what I expected of us, because that's what I stated generally is 2023 is going to be 365 days of freaking smashing, period. No excuses. And I'm over on a vacation right now all over Southeast Asia and haven't missed a beat, to the degree where I'm doing it in the back of taxi cabs, not of my own choosing, but that's just the way it has to be, man. And my poor wife, she understands my way. She understands the obstacle will get annihilated by my way, but my way is a handful. And so she has put up with my nonsense on this obstacle called the collective and my way to smash. And to Fran's point, it is critical that we have the right people around us, not only to inspire us, like the panel does right now. They hold me accountable to do my best in this moment, as every guest does, because I'm trying to serve a higher calling than just the four of us, as each guy on this panel is also doing. We also need the support of our family, like my wife, to understand my way, to understand how I think, to understand how I tier one smash. She might not fully understand why I do it, but she understands that I have to do it because that is how I am. And so we need a strong support element around us. We need strong friends to align with us, to make us feel like we're doing it right, to help calibrate us when we're not doing it as well as we should. We need accountability. We need direction. But most of all, what we need to do is get something big and dreamy that we can take no prisoners on and state that is it. 365 days this year. It is freaking gonna happen. And I will accept nothing less of myself. We have to hold ourselves so accountable to something way bigger than us that there is no room for error. And when the errors occur, when the failures occur, you have to dust yourself off, come into a podcast a few minutes late, apologize to the guests, and then get on with the program of freaking smashing like it has to be smashed.
You raise an excellent point in terms of what the collective's been doing, and you're on vacation. Absolutely, I was on vacation at one point during the summer. You were on another trip during the summer as well. You went to Pegasus Jump. There's lots of things we could have easily come up with innumerable ways to not do a show, but we always had a show. Every single day we've had a show, and sometimes it's been late, sometimes it's been pushed right, sometimes it's been jerry-rigged to kind of work. I've done it from my car, you've done it from a taxi, we've done it from all kinds of places. But the point being is that the one thing that was non-negotiable was that it was going to happen. Everything else was, we'll see what happens from there. But I have a question on this. You guys are you've touched on it a little bit back and forth as we've been going. The concept between, or the difference between smashing and taking the tactical pause. So I want to use Brian's example of, diving into that house after chasing these guys down and rummaging through the rooms and getting everything done. You could have walked out of there and been like, I kicked ass today. I'm going to do that tomorrow. And just consistently hammer at that over and over and over. And there's a point where you have to be able to take a step back and go, okay, well, what am I actually doing? How does this even work? And I'm just wondering where you guys see that line between, I just have to smash right now, or I need to take a second to figure this out, because it seems like that line shifts around quite a bit. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, and it does shift around. I think everything's about balance, right? So what is that end goal, and what do you need to do to get there? In the context of policing, it's what's the balance for the community? Does the community want me running in to houses and getting in these rumbles? And the answer is sometimes they do. Sometimes they're tired of that house terrorizing their community, and that's something that has to be done. But doing it in a way that can get people hurt unnecessarily, I think that's where you step back and say, yeah, there's a better way to do this. We can still get in there. We can surround and contain and write search warrants. And if we have to kick down that door, we want to make sure that we have all the tools that we need to have, and the personnel that we have to keep everyone, both the suspects and us safe. And then you balance what is the benefit. What's the benefit of rushing in? And I talked earlier about exigency. Sometimes you have to run into that house. Sometimes you hear somebody screaming and you have to get in there. Or if you're trying to preserve evidence, if you hear that toilet flushing and you're on that search warrant, you got to get in there. Sometimes you have to do it. But the other balance piece is your team ready for that? If I have a bunch of young, cops that don't have a lot of experience, I'm not going to send them in to do something like that. I want a tenured team that have been working together for a while, that know when they hit that door, they know exactly how each other are going to react, and they have a flow when they go through. So it's that skill. Do you have the skills to do it? Is your team cohesive enough to do it? And is it really necessary? And I think stuff like that just comes with experience, and you're not going to get that experience unless you've had failure, and unless you have that team that holds you accountable. You need those obstacles. You need those obstacles to move forward, and you need that in your life. That's how you get better.
Yeah, totally. Fran, thoughts on this?
So many thoughts. There's three concepts that you guys have brought up, both Shaun and Brian here that I coach. And the first one's relentless pursuit. Shaun used the word relentless. When we talk about what is relentless pursuit, it means that regardless of anything, I'm going to continue to work towards my goal. The term relentless pursuit has obviously been around for a long time, but we used it most poignantly over the last 25 years when we've talked about the global war on terror, specific to special operations, and the special operations relentless pursuit to combat global terrorism and the defeat of Al-Qaeda. And we did that all over the globe, in every corner of the earth, at whatever that cost was. And so when we look at achieving our goals and thinking about how am I going to get there, that's the mindset that we have to have. I'm going to relentlessly pursue this goal and every challenge that comes my way to achieve it. And if that's our overarching thought process, and that's our driving focus, and there's days I wake up and that's the first thing I'll tell myself when I wake up. I'll sit up and I'll say, man, I don't want to get up, but I'm on a relentless pursuit to build something here. And that requires me to do this thing right now. And then you're going to go off and you're going to do it. You're going to run through that wall. Now let's talk about, Brian talked about having to kind of stop and think and assess where we're at. Well, that's humility. When we talk about character and the characteristics that we look for in our team and building our team around us, and what we look for in ourselves and what we want to display, we have to display humility. Humility doesn't mean that we sit here and we're like, oh, it's okay, I'm not very good. No, we can be awesome, and that's fine. We can have success, but it means that we stop and go, well, how could I have done it better? Maybe there was a better way. Maybe there wasn't. But are we willing to ask that question? Are we arrogant? Because arrogance comes in here. Well, it worked that time. Okay, great. It worked that one time. Does it mean it's going to work again? Or is there a process that can be built? Is there an iteration that we can do to make it better the next time? That takes humility. And we have to exercise humility in the good times when things go well, and especially in the bad times, right? But that's when we talk about that after action review, right? That debrief, coming together, having thick skin, being constructive with ourselves too, and being honest with ourselves, but also being positive. I hate when people say, I'm humbled for this. Okay, yeah, great, but also be proud of yourself. You can be proud of yourself, and you can say that, and then say, but there's ways I could have done it better. And the third piece, I think, is about this term effective intelligence, another characteristic that's really important when we build teams and leaders. And Brian talked about you want a seasoned person who's been through some of these things before. When you look around, we learn from our experiences. The definition of effective intelligence is, can I use the aggregate experiences of my past to help shape my decisions in the future? That is very important. What we learn from our past, the experiences that we have, they shape our perspective. They shape our thought process. They give us that little bit of extra knowledge sometimes that help us to maybe think about a challenge 1% differently. That could be the difference between success and failure. And it's not an age thing. Okay. Yes, something does come from being on earth longer, all right, in many ways, and having a little bit more gray hair. But a lot of times it's just about the experience in a moment, in a situation. And that might not be an age thing. That just might be an experience thing. And so when we look around at our teams and we look around at ourselves, we want to think about how many times have I done this? What situations have I been in that are going to shape my perspective? Bill Belichick is famous on the New England Patriots over the last 20 plus years about the term situational football. Why do we train situational football? To build effective intelligence, because I've seen this before. I've seen it before. I could go on, especially about the Patriots and the number of instances where this is coming to play, but I'll take 2 seconds and give you this one. Everybody thinks that Malcolm Butler's interception in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, okay, which the Patriots were going to lose, right? And if you remember, the Seahawks were on the goal line and they threw the ball seemingly over the middle, and it was intercepted by Malcolm Butler. They should have run the ball. They probably would have won the game. But that interception, everyone's like, that was crazy. That was a luck play. No, it wasn't. There's an entire, I think it's a 30 for 30, or there's a special on ESPN that breaks that down. That was a play that had been run by the Seahawks throughout the season that the coaching staff of the Patriots identified as a go-to play in that situation. And they had keyed on one move that the receiver was going to make on the outside that was going to essentially be what looked like a pick. And they practiced that over and over again with the scout team. And they said, if you see this formation in this situation and this guy takes this one step, you have the safety or the cornerback had to jam him at the line. And if they jammed him at the line, it created the space for the safety to jump the route. They got in that situation. If you watch the true game film, you'll see the safety yell to Butler, this is the play. He points to him. And then they snap the ball. The safety takes one step forward. He jams the receiver, which allows Butler to step behind him and intercept the ball. That's effective intelligence and preparation.
Absolutely. It's a, I wrote down here something that you were talking about earlier. It was pride doesn't negate humility. And I think this is kind of what you're talking about, is that you can be proud of things. You can work towards doing things better. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? And that is absolutely accurate. And I really love the fact that you brought up that particular play, because I remember how big of a deal that was when that happened. I'm not a football fan. I'm not a huge football fan. I enjoy watching it, but I'm not like an in-depth fan by any means. But I remember how big of a deal that was. And I remember the conversation for weeks after that play, that one play, which is pretty crazy. But it goes to show that you can always learn more by taking the time to assess and develop and create and like work from there. Shaun, you got any thoughts on this?
And Belichick's not getting fired, by the way. But there you go. There's my helmet up there.
He's a super fan. I like it. Shaun, thoughts?
Noted. So I think that, when I said tactical pause, I don't want, and I'm going to make it an extreme now in order to make it sink in. What I wasn't saying is draw a warm bath, sprinkle some rose petals in it, have a soak, and take the time to reflect. That's not what I said. Tactical pause can be all kinds of things. And if you've done enough tactical pauses or enough reflection or enough thought on what you did a minute ago, a week ago, a year ago, a decade ago, whatever the case is, a lifetime ago, if you've done it a lot, your tactical pause looks like this. Blink. That's it. That's all. That's all you need to do. And so I don't want anyone to get it misconstrued in the sense of tactical pause is a namaste moment. Maybe it is for some, but it isn't for me. And I know that to be the case for some other people that I've worked with. And so tactical pauses, as you, I think, were maybe positioning it, Chance, of this line where if this, then that. To me, it's a very blurry line where it can happen in a heartbeat, in between heartbeats, as it were. So if you practice it enough, if you're reflective enough, if you are in the zone enough, then these kind of reflective moments of how to do it better, iterative loop, that's on the regular. It's a constant stream within me where I'm always looking not to find the cheat code, not to find the most efficient or effective way. I'm constantly like a software algorithm that is self-actualized into sort of an AI form of just getting smarter constantly. I seek to be smarter in the now. And so I don't think it requires rose petals and warm bath to be drawn. I hope that makes sense.
I don't know why, but I have this mental image of you drawing a bath with rose petals now, and it's not something that I really want to keep in my head. But
In Southeast Asia.
In Southeast Asia, there exactly. It's a different kind of rose petal bath down there, I think. The point, or the question I wanted to ask you guys, and Brian, I'm going to come back to you on this one, is, you know, you're absolutely right, Shaun. And my thought pattern initially was, you know, that there's a point where you can take the time to actually kind of assess and then apply it to the next thing. But I think you're absolutely accurate in this, in that it's a learned skill, right? To be able to assess and do those things over time to the degree that now you have the ability to just like, yep, Raj, and then move on. Whereas somebody who's just getting into the game or who's never really dealt with any of the major obstacles might have to go draw a bath and take some time and reflect on it and sit as a namaste moment and really develop a way forward through that. Is there anything that you guys can think of, or any experiences that you've had that have given you a leg up in this, or given you an additional insight into your own ability to reflect and grow and through these processes? Brian, I'm going to come to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's, you know, these are all things that can be trained, and I think that all of us have had the benefit of working in organizations where that's a value, and it's something that people value in what we do, and it's transferable. I think that it's transferable to anything, any life activity, but it's not something. You can have some innate ability to do that, and I think that, but that it takes practice. And so you have to always have that practice and reflecting, and having gone through experience after experience, then you make those decisions and you move forward. You don't want to leave things to chance. And if you do leave things to chance, you want a lot of experiences to fall back on, and so that you can then execute. But if you're starting out, if you're, you know, if somebody is new and they're young, and it takes training. And so I think for those of us that are a little bit older in our organizations, or older in what we do, it's building the capacity of those younger people. It's giving those younger people the ability to make decisions and the ability to fail, so that they can do what we do now. And if it doesn't come out the way we want it to, that's okay too. And we take responsibility. Yes, we were in charge, and we empowered them to make those decisions, and they weren't the right decisions, but here's why they did it. And we're going to work better next time. And that's, you let people fail. And so it just builds that capacity further down the line beyond you. So those are my thoughts.
Absolutely. And definitely don't leave your problems to me. Definitely. I will not solve them for you. I
don't leave anything to chance.
Right. Fran, you got any thoughts on this?
Shaun. I mean, it's failure. Brian talked about, you know, failure there. He talked about it a few minutes ago. I mean, catastrophic failure is the best lesson. And I've had a number of them. And it's hard, right? You know, especially if you're not a person who has a lot of failure or deals with a lot of failure. You know, I would also challenge people that if you ever interview somebody and you ask them the question, you know, tell me about a time when you failed, and they do one of two things: either tell you they've never failed, just end the interview like they're a liar, right there, So that's just not a person you want on your team. Or honestly, like, I don't like it when people try to spin some failure into like, and then there was all this positive. It's like, yeah, I'm sure there was, but like, let's just talk about like what happened. What'd you learn from it? That's really what I want to know. What'd you learn from that failure? So, just some hiring tips right there. But you have to experience catastrophic failure, because that's going to remind you of all of these things we've talked about here today. What is your vision? What's the journey that you're on? Are you doing the right things every day? Do you display humility? Are you relentlessly pursuing your dreams? And are you willing to stop at nothing to do that? Because if we trace back, I'm not talking about like, I ate 6 pieces of pizza when I only wanted to eat 4, like I was somewhere there, or like, I wanted to run, 3 miles, but I only ran 2.5. Like, I don't like I'm talking about like, you blew up your world, and in a catastrophic way, personally, professionally, emotionally, mentally. You will be able, I would almost guarantee every time, to trace that back to a few things. Usually it's around a lack of humility and a semblance of arrogance. It's a failure to prepare, which comes back to a sense of arrogance and lack of humility. Or it's just not having the experience that you needed to be in that situation and not seeing the big picture. I was a young officer when I was a general's aide. And, I used to always run in because you had access to the boss, and he'd always, he asked your opinion, and I'd always run in and be like, this guy's stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We should fire this guy, sir. Like, and he'd always look at me and he'd say, something comes on. I said earlier, something comes from being on Earth longer. And here's all the things he's thinking about that you're not. And I appreciate your opinion, and you might not be wrong, but you didn't think about these 8 other things that I'm thinking about, that he's thinking about. And so sometimes you just don't have the experience that you need to do what you've been asked to do. And it's going to result in failure. So assessing that failure, learning from it, that's going to be the growth. You started it with a conversation about growth. That's the growth. And then put it behind you. You got to forget about it. Learn from it. Keep it in your mind. But you can't beat yourself up every single day.
That is one of the biggest struggles, I think, for a lot of veterans, is the letting things go. That is one of the big struggles for a lot of people. I know it was one of mine. Shaun, you got any thoughts on this?
Yep, the obstacle is the way, and then the obstacle's in the rearview mirror. One way or the other, you got to figure that out. And that's about as simple as I can state it. Fran just put it out more eloquently, but the simplest thing is this. If you got an obstacle in front of you, start smashing on it, and eventually you'll make your way past it. And then no matter how you did it, no matter the mistakes you made while you were doing it, no matter the personal embarrassment that you faced while you were doing it, no matter the head-shaking moments that occurred while you were doing it, well, that's all in the rearview mirror now, and you got to let her go in order to keep moving forward, because you can smash on all the obstacles you want for the rest of your life. You will find a way eventually to move through all of those obstacles. Maybe it'll be 10, maybe it'll be 1,000,000. That'll be all dependent on how good you get at letting go of the obstacle that you just smashed through, and the personal embarrassments within your mind that you'll be head shaking on. I can't believe that I did all of those dumb things while I was trying to smash on that obstacle. Who cares, man? Those are all just lessons. You gotta let that stuff go. You gotta keep moving forward and not cling to the past of, I wish I could have done it better. I wish I hadn't have said that. I wish. Smash on the obstacle, move through it, and then let it go.
Yeah. There's something I just wanted to key on that clicked in my brain a couple seconds ago, was the fact that, you mentioned catastrophe. I think at one point, I can't remember Brian or Fran, but, you got to allow for the catastrophic things to happen and then learn from them. But I think the important point of that is that catastrophe changes over time, and that, what I thought as a catastrophe when I was 12 was the fact that my Nintendo broke, right? That's a catastrophe. Oh my God, right? But as a 20-year-old, when I first got in the military, my inspection went poorly. Well, that's a catastrophe, right? Oh no, I don't get a weekend pass. Whereas now at 40, with the with all this stuff, it's something that changes. So I think it's something that we need to engage right away. Now, Brian, Fran, you got to run. So let's get some final thoughts here, and then we'll shut her down. So, Fran, let's start with you. What do you think? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I got screaming kids in the background who have to get to daycare and school. Look, I think you're spot on because what you're talking about there, Chance, is perspective. Our perspective changes. You want a lesson in perspective. Have children, have teenagers, have a teenage girl, and a teenage boy. Right? You get a lesson in perspective all the time. We were just at my mom's house for Thanksgiving, and I was getting on my daughter about this thing that was blowing up her world, and I was explaining how it wasn't a big deal, and my mom looked at me and she started saying, "You never follow the rules. You never follow the rules," which immediately brought me back to, I remember when I was telling my mom that when I was 14, 15 years old, and she was looking at me the way I look at my daughter going, this just really isn't a big deal. Like, what is the problem? So it is about perspective. And that's what comes with growth. Being able to look back and say, yep, this is, this may have been a big deal then in the broad scheme of things. Maybe it wasn't, but we're at different points in our life, and being aware of that and attuned to that is about leadership, right? And that is about setting the example and looking around you and the people who are involved in your life and your organization and saying, hey, I totally get it. And here's where I experienced the same thing. And this is maybe what I did. And maybe you can learn from that. But that's going to be that growth. That's that effective intelligence I was talking about. And it's about identifying with those challenges, growing from it, and building an organization that's comfortable in doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you got to run, by all means, brother, you can just you can dip out if you need to go do it with your kids.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of chaos in the other room. So
all good. I appreciate you joining us. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Brian, any final thoughts on anything we've gone over so far?
Yeah, I think that if you want to live a life of significance, you have to expect obstacles, and you have to understand that when you meet those obstacles and when you push through them, that's where the significance comes from, and that's where the growth comes from. And if you're not experiencing obstacles in your life, you're probably not going to attain that significance.
I like that a lot. Shaun, any final thoughts?
I do, and it's just exactly what Brian and Fran had said, that it has to be significant. The failure has to it's got to sting. Fran had said catastrophic. That's a pretty strong word for sure, but I think that somehow that's what people have got to think of, the failure that they're seeking in the massive dream that they've got in front of them, the massive obstacle that maybe they can't figure out how to break through. It's got to sting for it to count. Because if it's easy, that ain't an obstacle. That's just a bypass. I think that when something stings enough that it sticks around in your mind for long enough that you really, really, really feel that you excelled in the moment, well, those are the things that are really will stay with you for the rest of your life. So, burning a pancake at breakfast time is not significant. It is not catastrophic. It is not gonna sting. But burning the house down, well, that's pretty catastrophic. That will leave a sting for quite a long time. And so, look at your life and contextualize the obstacles against the really stinging moments. And I think you might find that burning the pancakes isn't a big deal. It was never an obstacle, and there's no need to get all wrapped up in the drama of these tiny little moments that aren't even a blip on the radar and call them obstacles. And you found a way around the burned pancake. So, contextualize your life against the really, as Fran said, almost catastrophic struggles that you may have faced in your life, and run your life accordingly against them.
Yeah. And to your point, I think that something like that could be catastrophic initially, right? When you're first learning how to cook and you burn your entire meal, that could be catastrophic. You might be setting it up for a date or something like that, but it's the ability to learn and then develop beyond that. And I think that is the key thing, is that you're right. Burning a pancake is not a catastrophic failure, but it is a failure, and it is something that we need to learn from consistently, and then build upon that failure, that learning moment, and then grow so that you don't burn the next pancake and don't burn the next one, and you're able to lay out an entire meal for everyone around you without thought of that first burnt pancake, at least in my mind. So I really do appreciate the convo, Brian. Thank you very much for not only joining us, but for waking up super early and being here with us. I really do appreciate it. It is awesome. I can't wait to get you back on again after your trip to Hawaii. You can enjoy yourself while you're out there. We'll talk to you after that. But again, learn, build, grow with us here on The Collective. We'll see you all tomorrow. Chimo.